Okay, we'll call this meeting to order, please. Let everybody out here on this nice wintry night. Let's start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of the February 3rd, 2015 meeting. So moved. Mr. Baker made the motion, Ms. Second, on all yes vote?
Yes.
Okay, good. Moving right along. Okay, we don't have anyone to sign in for any public comments. I don't believe they'll be everybody else or anything. So we're going to go down our agenda now. Mr. Christian, the assistant principal of the high school, was scheduled here, but he isn't here, obviously. There's some miscommunication, or maybe he can't get here, who knows. But, so what we're going to do, we're going to just proceed to the next part, which is our personnel hearing. That doesn't bother you all, does it? It moves up things a bit. Okay, let me, I'll make a statement here, and then we'll go from there, okay? And anytime as we're going through this, if you have a question, just raise your hand or yell at me. But these are personnel hearings from Lincoln County Schools, and this is February the 24th, 2015. West Virginia Code 18A-2-7 requires county boards of education to conduct hearings upon the written demand of employees who have been recommended for termination and/or transfer in subsequent assignment. At such hearings, the reasons for the recommended termination and/or transfer must be shown. The evidence to be considered by the board shall be limited to the information provided by the superintendent or designees in support of the recommendation and information submitted by the employee. Members of the public who are in attendance will only be invited to offer testimony and evidence if called upon by the superintendent or employee. Okay, so the first hearing and the only hearing we have tonight is Sarah Baumgartner. And so at this point, we need to know if you want to have an opened or a closed hearing. Do you want to have an executive session, or do you want it to be open?
Open's fine.
Okay, that decision is yours. Okay, so we're going to have an open hearing. Okay. I'll read a little bit more of my script and then we'll go on. Okay, now this is directed to you all. May I ask your name too, ma'am?
Sharon, S-H-E-R-R-O-N-E.
S-H-E-R-R-O-N-E. Sharon, okay.
Hornbuckle, and I'm Ms. Baumgartner's attorney.
Okay. Like Sean Hornbuckle.
That's my cousin.
Oh, okay.
Hope you all voted for him, thank you.
I know Sean is a fine young man. Okay. The superintendent has recommended that Ms. Baumgartner be considered for termination. Therefore, the board will call upon the superintendent and her designees to state and explain the reasons for that recommendation. After the superintendent has concluded her statement, the employee will be afforded with an opportunity to present witnesses and evidence. The time to be afforded for the employee's presentation shall be limited to 15 minutes. However, written statements or documents may be submitted by the employee to the board for its consideration. At the conclusion of the employee's presentation of witnesses and evidence, board members will be provided with an opportunity to ask the superintendent and the employee, Ms. Baumgartner, questions pertinent to the proposed personnel action. As presiding officer, I will rule on all evidentiary and procedural issues. Should any member of the board take issue with one of my rulings or procedure or evidence, he or she may put the matter to a vote of the full board. While the strict rules of evidence will not be applied, evidence that is not germane to the reasons for the proposed personnel action will not be allowed. And this hearing will be recorded. Mrs. Polly will be doing that. Now, what we're going to start off with, so everybody knows who everyone is, with Ms. Hornbuckle, who's going to represent Ms. Baumgartner. We have Leslie Tyree, who is the board's, or I guess going to work with Ms. Lucas as on the her behalf as our attorney in this thing, in this personnel action. And like I said, it's Nancy Polly. She's will be doing the recording of the proceedings. And once again, at any time during this, if you all have any questions or want to clarify something, just let me know. You have the opportunity. Mrs. Lucas will go first, present her side, why she's proposing this, and You'll all get the opportunity to rebut that. Board members will have an opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll go from there. Okay? Everybody okay so far? All right. Okay, Ms. Lucas, please make a showing of the reasons for proposed personnel action.
I will speak on behalf of Ms. Lucas right now. If you guys want to sit here, go right ahead.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That way they can probably record us a little better.
Yeah, here in a second. Now, what we'll, I don't anticipate, are we gonna have any witnesses other than yourself?
No.
Okay. At what point, Ms. Bobby, you are swearing in?
I can do it now.
I take that back, I may ask Ms. Gandy.
Okay. Okay, Bertie Gandy is the treasurer for the Board of Education. So let's do that now. Everyone who's going to be a witness, which I'm assuming would be Ms. Baumgartner, Bertie Gandy, and Mrs. Lucas. That would be the only witnesses, am I correct? Okay. Nancy, would you swear?
You want me to do it all together?
Yeah, let's just swear it in and use it all at one time.
Well, first of all, I need everyone that's going to testify to state their name and position.
Sarah Baumgartner, school counselor.
I need the rest of them.
Could you add where you're a school counselor?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, at West Hamlin Elementary, that's my home school, and then Ranger Elementary.
Okay, that's a question I usually ask first, because I'm going to bypass it before I've done that. So, I need you all to raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay. Everybody's sworn in that way. Sometimes we do it individually to get to it. Okay. Ms. Tyree?
Yes. Well, let me just say in the way of an opening comment that these are the most unusual hearings that boards have because you are asking to cut a position and it has nothing to do with the performance of the person. We want to make that clear from the beginning. Ms. Baumgartner has done a good job. This has nothing to do with her performance in that position. However, boards of education all over the state, as you know, are called on every year to reduce their workforce when they are over their funding formula, when they are not receiving reimbursement from the state, numerous reasons that require, for budgetary purposes and solvency, that positions be cut when they can be cut and still operate the school system. So you have a situation where Ms. Baumgartner has done a good job and been a good employee. However, her position is a grant-funded position, and that grant is no longer available. So in that vein is I'll present testimony from Ms. Lucas, but that's the reason for the cutting of the position, because it is strictly a grant-funded position. You're not receiving any reimbursement from the state. The grant is no longer available, so therefore the position should not be available. Do you want to make that opening statement?
I do, and she hit the nail on the head about the grant funded position. That's the reason I'm here with Ms. Baumgartner this evening. Ms. Baumgartner was never informed that it was a grant funded position. We have several pieces of evidence, her contract, as well as a listing of all the counselors in Lincoln County showing how they are funded. Only one counselor on this sheet is funded by a grant. We feel that you all it was misrepresented to her how she would be paid. She switched over the insurance for her young son, intending that she would be here possibly for next year, and was never ever told that it was funded by a grant. She asked several people, including her homeschool principal, as well as a lady that worked at the Board of Education, if this was funded by a grant, because anyone that has worked in the public sector understands that a grant could disappear at any time. She was never informed of this until when she met Ms. Lucas last week.
Okay.
I would like to call Superintendent Lucas as our first witness. She's already been sworn in, so we'll just go ahead and
Well, I
start.
really need for her to move a little closer.
Oh,
That tends not to pick up what they say sometimes.
Okay, we understand that completely. Thank you. Okay, will this work?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay,
It's
excellent.
fine.
All right. Well, Ms. Ms. Lucas, I think you've already stated your name and been sworn in, so I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. Can you just explain to the board the reasoning behind cutting the position, how you came to that conclusion?
Yes. As you all know, this is what we're calling personnel season. Happens around this time every year. Sometimes the legislators change the dates, but it's around this time every year. I meet with several people when we start looking at the budget for next year. I meet with our treasurer to look at the funding that we have. I meet with directors. I also meet with principals. And we look at positions, look at number of students, we look at funding, we look at state aid formula, how much they will pay us for numbers of people. And we have been looking at a number of positions that we are over in Lincoln County for several years now. And as you all know, each year, we are cutting positions. If we are funded by a grant, if we're funded through federal funding, whether it's Title I, whether it's special education, when that funding has been decreased, we have to look at positions. Our county, unfortunately, does not have an excess of money. And are we able to keep those positions and fund them locally? Or do we have to make that tough decision of providing services to our students without a position? And that's what we had looked at. And when I met with Mrs. Baumgardner, I explained that to her. We don't always put grant funded, but we try very hard to make sure that people know that if it is a grant funded position, that they're aware. I did not know that she wasn't aware until she told me that she wasn't aware that it was a grant funded position. But unfortunately, there had been some people prior to her in this position that was funded by the Benedum grant. And, you know, it's a 3-year grant, and it's gone. So that was the purpose of the cut.
Now, Ms. Lucas, how many positions was Lincoln County School over formula for this past school year?
I think
Just give me an approximate.
professional or service or both.
That's,
Probably, I want to say around 26, 22, somewhere in the 20s.
okay, now, she's a counselor, is that correct, Ms. Baumgardner?
Yes, she
Okay,
is.
now, did you look at whether or not you would be able to successfully serve the Lincoln County students with cutting this position?
I did.
What did you determine?
We have services that will be given to our students. Of course, you know, in the code, it doesn't give us a set number. It just says that we must provide services to our students, and we will be providing services to the students.
So you don't have any concern that you won't be able to service the students with this position no longer existing?
Correct.
Okay, now, I have a question regarding the cutting of just positions in general. I'm not speaking about Ms. Baumgardner's, but you don't just cut grant-funded positions, do you?
No.
Okay, do you ever cut a position for someone that is a fully certified teacher that's been employed for a long time?
Yes.
Do you cut Title I positions at times?
Yes.
Okay, so is it possible that Ms. Baumgardner could have been cut if she had been in another position?
Correct.
So she's being cut because she is in this particular grant-funded position, but sometimes you cut positions that aren't, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, now do you have, I'll get some specific numbers from Ms. Gandy, but do you have a general idea of what the cost will be to Lincoln County Schools if the position is not cut?
It will be in the neighborhood of 57,000 plus.
And that will be paid directly out of your budget, is that correct?
Correct,
No reimbursement,
correct,
no potential grant funding?
correct.
Okay, I don't have any further questions for Ms. Lucas right now.
Okay.
Just have a few. Do you commonly tell people when they're grant funded? I believe you said you did, but.
If we know specifically, sometimes people come in and they're being interviewed and, because I'm not the one that's doing the
Yes, ma'am.
interviewing.
That was my next question.
I'm not the one that does the interviewing. That is not I want to say a required thing that we have put, but most often we will say this is a grant funded position if it's for 1 year or 3 years, or we try to make them aware.
So do you instruct your principals or whoever's doing the interviewing to inform the employees, the potential employees, that this is a grant and you may not have this after this year?
I want to clarify something. Sometimes, when we have changes in principals, or any administration within the system that is responsible for the position, or they may not just, I may think, okay, they know that that's a grant funded position, but because they have changed positions, maybe the previous principal knew that, and the current one did not know, and that's a possibility that they did not know.
Was there a change in positions for Ranger Elementary? Was the principal different from last year from this year that interviewed Ms. Baumgartner?
Did the Ranger Elementary, she wasn't the one that did the interview.
It was a man.
Mr. Roy.
Has he changed positions?
He had changed since this grant came on board, yes.
So he was not aware of the grant?
I can't answer for him.
Okay. That's all.
Okay. All right. All right, anybody?
I'm going to call Ms. Gandy for just a couple of quick questions.
Want me to do? You want her to?
Wait, let's do it this way. I know in the script we said we'd wait for each one, but we'll just do it that way while Ms. Lucas here, Ms. Berg. We'll ask our questions that way rather than going on. Mr. Baker.
When this job was posted, was there anything in the job description that guaranteed that this position was for more than 1 year?
This particular position I want to say the grant was for 3 years, okay?
Right.
And we've had some changes within that personnel, within that position. Some people have left or changed jobs, and then someone else would come on, and they would only be, maybe the grant would still just be for 2 years, or maybe in this position, this case, for 1 year. Was it in that job description
Let me rephrase
or
my question.
posting?
What I'm asking is, when the job was posted, was the job posted for a definitive period? A 1 year term, a 2 year term, a 3 year term?
No. We're normally advised not to do that in a posting.
So there was nothing in the job posting that gave any indication that it was a 1 year job or a 10-year job or anything like that?
No.
Okay, thank you.
As a follow-up to Mr. Baker's question, was there anything in that job description that indicated that it was contingent upon business funding? Or
No,
do you know?
not in that posting, no.
Okay, all right. I have one question while we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
You said that we'd be able to serve those students at West Hamlin Ranger. Could you tell us how you plan to do that?
We have one counselor that her position is itinerant at this point. So we will be rearranging her schedule to cover those students. And we do have a counselor, a half-time counselor at West Hamlin at this point.
This person is the itinerant person. What schools do they serve now?
Well, actually, they're housed at Lincoln County High School, but they do pull data and information and actually could serve some of the other schools as well.
Is it, am I understanding that right now that person only serves the high school?
But they're working with Dropout, and of course that is looking at all of the students within the county. So she kind of can be in and out of the other schools as well.
I mean, does she go to any of the other middle or elementary schools?
Not right now.
Okay, but she could.
She could, yes, because the job is posted as itinerant.
Okay, that was, I was just curious about that. Okay.
I have a
Ms. Smith.
question. How long have you worked for Lincoln County Schools?
October 22nd was my hire date.
Um, Okay, and you said that you asked if it was grant funded, you asked the principal?
Yes, when I received I received a contract in the mail that I didn't know that I was gonna be getting, and it didn't have the correct, income, salary on it. And it said it was for a year, so I was kind of alarmed when I got it, like, oh my gosh, what does this mean? So immediately, I think I got it on a Friday, and I'm at Ranger on Monday, so I called my homeschool principal, Mr. Roy, on Monday to see, you know, what this was about, and he said, well, you know, it's just something they commonly do, or you have to sign a contract every year, so it's not a big deal, it's nothing to be alarmed about. And then when I did come here to sign my contract, I asked Ms. Brody, you know, why is the salary not what I thought it was gonna be? And I said, is this a grant, or, you know, what is this? And she said, no, and she said the same thing, Mr. Roy said that it has to, every year you're gonna have to sign this until you've been here X amount of years, and you won't have to sign it anymore. And then she didn't say anything about it being a grant position either, because I was even asking like, why is it just a year, and that's when she explained.
Well, you're saying that you saw that it was just a year. That was on your contract?
You have to sign an annual contract, but when you can go into it thinking, if I'm asking, is this a permanent position? I was told it was a permanent position, and generally, granted, you might have to sign an annual contract, you have that expectation that it's gonna continue. That's just kind of, and it would have been a different story had I known that before accepting the position.
I don't mean to interject or throw a horseshoe in all this, but what we really ought to do as a matter of procedure is deal with one witness at a time and then allow her attorney to question her when she's up first, and then ask her questions of her, and just do that with everybody. I don't want you to feel like we're taking away your ability to put on the case that you want without being able to do that.
Okay. Well, I agree, and I think that's one of the reasons they wanted us to wait until they voted to ask Lieutenant. But, okay, anything further of Ms. Lucas?
I do have one
Go ahead.
follow-up question, Ms. Lucas. Basically, I want to ask a question regarding any position in the school system. Is any position in the school system 100% guaranteed for the next year?
No.
Are all positions possibly subjected to being terminated during personnel season?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
I have one more, Mr. Excuse me, sorry. You said there's a council that's gonna cover West Hamlin now? West Hamlin Elementary, that's coming from the high school?
No.
That's gonna cover Ranger that's coming from the high school?
Right.
And how is he or she funded?
That particular person is also a grant-funded position.
And her grant will continue for next year?
Yes.
That's
Oh, yeah, okay. Anything further from Ms. Lucas?
Nothing further from Ms. Lucas.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lucas. Okay, call your next witness,
We'll
please.
call Ms. Candy.
Murray Candy.
It didn't
know that Ms.
Candy was gonna be doing this.
I was going to take a chance on your questions, but since you're here, have a seat.
Bring your paper.
And you've already been sworn in, and you've already stated your name, and I'm just going to ask you 2 quick questions. Can you tell us what the cost to the county will be if the board chooses not to cut this position?
Trish and I calculated that, but I didn't keep it.
Just
But
give
it
us
was
the
in,
approximate.
it was between $50,000 and $60,000,
Okay,
and
and
all benefits.
so last year, the $60,000 was paid out of the grant, is that correct?
Half of it was paid out.
Okay, so if you keep this position in your school system this year, you will pay the entirety out of your funds.
That's correct.
Now, can you tell us, does your school system have the extra money to fund this position?
It does not.
Okay, I don't think I have any other questions for Ms. Gandy.
Oh,
Ms. Hornbuckle might have questions.
done.
yeah, I was trying to get out of here.
It's gonna make you sit and I don't have anything. Yeah, I'm good. You're fine.
Well, then, if the board doesn't have any questions, I guess you are done.
You don't have anything?
I do not.
I thought you were kidding.
Thank you, good job.
You did a wonderful job there.
What's the question?
Okay.
I didn't know how to.
Okay, Ms. Tyra, anybody else?
No, I do not have any further witnesses. We'll rest our case at this point.
All right, thank you. Okay, Ms. Hornbuck.
Ms. Baumgartner, what, do you remember when you signed your contract?
Yeah.
November 19th of 2014. And did you do research before you signed your contract about how the funding occurred in Lincoln County and how you would be paid? Did you
might
ever?
have to speak up. so
Sorry,
Ms. Polly can hear you. I mean,
me or
Ms.
her?
Polly, You're
So-
nodding,
Oh, okay.
but Ms. Polly
Oh.
can't see you.
Okay. Did you ever look at any paperwork that stated how you were funded?
Yes.
Okay, and what paper, and it stated that you were funded, did it say you were funded by a grant?
It said I was funded by the board.
I have this for you all to look at.
Is this something you want to enter into evidence?
Yes.
You have the employment contract as well?
I do.
Is it just this first page that? you
Yes,
want?
it's this graph right here that has each of the counselors, and how they are funded. There's one counselor listed that is funded under a grant, the rest of them have listed they are funded by the Board of Education themselves.
We'll label that exhibit one, Polly, after we see what it's titled here.
And I need a copy of that.
So this will be exhibit one. It's Lincoln County Counseling Collaborative dated 2014, and that's the staffing section of that, okay? We'll make copies for the record.
And I may need to get Ms. Gandy to explain the document after I look at it. Could you pass that back to Mrs. Hornbuck, please? We need some coffee. Do you want me to get
You- Let's take a couple of minutes here, if we could, to allow everybody to have, is there anything else you need to have copied that we do at the same time?
I'm sorry, I see it. The contract, if y'all need a copy of
Contract.
that.
Brenda, why don't we do that too, and that way we'll just, we'll take a couple of minutes here, and that way we can have it stop. Let's just recess for 5 or 10 minutes while she's doing it, okay?